No, we're not live yet. Here we go now. Okay, we're live now.
Well, Giuseppe and Scorpio, we've had a major development here about 30 minutes before the debate began with a statement from a former business partner of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden by the name of Tony Bobulinski. Tony was a former lieutenant in the U.S. Navy. That's a position equivalent to captain in the Marine Corps. He explained that he had personal interaction, direct personal interaction with Joe Biden, discussing Hunter's business plans and how they referred to Joe Biden as the big guy or the big man. He explained they were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's name out of it. We had now the president release the video of his interview by Leslie Stahl, which has yet to be broadcast, but where Leslie Stahl was refusing to discuss the Hunter Biden issue on the ground that it had not been verified. Well, stop and consider. The FBI has had the laptop for 10 months. We know that there were two laptops and a sticky keyboard. One of the laptops was water damaged and apparently could not be salvaged, that they came into the possession of the owner of the shop when Hunter never got around to coming back to pick him up, which may have been because he was drunk or intoxicated or high when he dropped them off. Rudy Giuliani has given us a very extensive report of what's to be found on these laptops. It includes 40,000 emails. It includes numerous videos, including of Hunter raping and torturing young Chinese girls. There's a photograph of Hunter asleep with a crack pipe hanging out of his mouth. Precisely what does Leslie Stahl think requires further verification that she could not obtain were she willing to look for it? This is a monstrous scandal, a failure by the mainstream media for two obvious major issues of national importance. And to my astonishment, I just heard Newt Gingrich come on with Tucker Carlson to say that not only was it the Joe Biden scandal, which we're hearing about, not only is there the scandal of the media refusing to cover it, but right now that Google up in Washington, in Seattle, where it has its headquarters, has a dozen Chinese communist experts in censorship adjusting its algorithms to impose the same forms of censorship they're using in China right here on U.S. citizens.
Yep. And I'll bet that keyboard was beer damage, not water damage, Jim.
Yeah, it could well be, Scorpio. Now, we don't know who's going to come out on the debate stage, but I think having committed themselves to the Biden double at the first debate, they're going to stick with him. As I've explained during our shows, Joe Biden has earlobes. Joe Biden has earlobes. They're very pronounced here. In other words, where his ears connect to his head, they curl up. They curl up. So you have a lobe hanging down. The Biden double does not have earlobes. They go straight down and attach to the head. So it's going to be very obvious that this will be the same Biden double. I think they cannot afford to switch now. We know he has a narrower head than Joe. We know that Joe ties his tie with a double Windsor, the double with a single Windsor. We know Joe has had a skull implant and doesn't require a wire. We know the body double needed a wire because he hasn't had a skull implant. We also know that Kristen Walker, who is moderator tonight, like the other two, have deep ties to the Democratic Party. It is a disgrace that the debate commission was so biased and unfair.
You know what else is a disgrace, Jim, is the fact that Leslie Stahl is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and she's just a globalist traitor, not a journalist. She's a puppet of the Zionist elite.
Bingo.
Well, you know, Giuseppe, as a member of the CFR, she may well have been there when Joe Biden was boasting about his extorting the government of Ukraine into firing the prosecutor who was looking into Burisma by threatening to withhold $1 billion in foreign aid. She may have witnessed that herself personally.
Sure. That was
Absolutely.
a disgraceful interview. I just watched it before we came on. Absolutely disgraceful. Okay, I got a question. Is Joe Biden going to walk out with a mask on or not?
We shall see.
From Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
Yep, he did.
See if we can get a close-up, check out the earlobes.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure, but I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime. Nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators, we're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. You hear nothing else I say tonight. Hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new
What utter
cases per
bullshit.
day. Compared
Comorbidity,
to
90%.
what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, we're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisor told me,
Liar,
say
liar,
100,000.
you moron, you
And we're in a
buffoon.
circumstance where the president thus far still has no plan, no comprehensive plan.
Lock us down, Joe.
We have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe, and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical
It freeze?
most serious journals in the whole world.
I was trying to
said for the first time ever that the way
increase
this
the
president has
volume,
responded
but
to this
that's just how
crisis
loud
has
it
been
goes.
absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
Trump, I'd like to
Mitchell.
you and your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very
Can
quickly.
you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very
Oh my
well. And we have
God.
numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular, that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into
He's a fella.
a dark winter, and he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President
Based on the model,
says
he's
you-
already saved us 2 million lives.
At all, we're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic. It was horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access to China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry. It's all going to be over soon. Come on.
Come on, man.
The scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump?
No,
your
not a
reaction?
scientist in the world.
Need to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has to think about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't
Smoking
do
some
that.
crack with Hunter in the
Every
basement.
meeting I
There you
had,
go.
every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.
You caught a cold, man. That's how you recovered in a couple days.
99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close
This
up.
does appear to be Biden's body double.
We can't close up our nation. Or
Yeah, he's got the cleft chin.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You have
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then
30
I have a
seconds.
question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home have an empty chair at the kitchen
We're
table.
all gonna die, Joe.
Man or wife.
Lock us up.
Just remember, this is the Democrats' strongest issue.
He's gone.
Right.
It's just
Come
such
on.
a cowardly
We're dying with
lie by the
Because
nanny
he's
state.
never said. You said it's dangerous.
Yeah.
When's the last time? Is it
Flush
really
our lives down the toilet so we're safe, Joe.
know
Please.
people is dangerous now? What should they do about the danger?
People are getting sick
You
from
say,
wearing these
They
masks.
take no responsibility.
I will never
What
wear a
president
mask.
was ever held responsible for deaths from the seasonal flu? This is an equivalent.
Here. It's
Exactly.
China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry, the warm weather. Don't worry, maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this.
Unreal.
What a
I was
ridiculous
kidding on that, but
statement.
just to finish this, when I
The
closed,
Democratic cowards
I shouldn't
cower in
have closed.
fear.
Yeah.
Giuseppe, can you see? Has he earlobes? Is this the Joe or the body double?
but when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier.
I guess we need him to
Just,
turn
Joe,
his head a
it
little
doesn't-
bit
I
more.
didn't say either.
Doesn't
of those
look like
things.
much
You
of a
certainly
lobe to
did.
me.
You certainly did.
I talked about his xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handle
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
That's obvious.
do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are
Technocracy.
fearful of the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse,
Excellent
outweigh
point,
the risk
Alex
of
Scott.
exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude
BS-19, that's a good one.
the country
Yeah,
to
that
have
is a
to
good
shut
one.
down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in
He's
his golf
blaming
course, he should have
Trump
been
when he
negotiating
should
with
blame
Nancy
Fauci and
Pelosi
Bill
and the rest of the
Gates.
Democrats and Republicans about
He was following Fauci's advice.
for passing for
Exactly.
billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control.
Exercise is bad for you.
When you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools, they need a
He'd
lot
have us all killing ourselves slowly by a mask mandate, which he reaffirmed tonight.
more pods. And he's refused.
While
to
they take a wrecking ball to the
now.
economy.
Let's talk about schools. President
Well,
Trump,
I
can you
think we have to respond, if I might.
please? And then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats.
His
Democrats
handlers
all,
told Trump
they're
to mellow
shut
out.
down
He's
so
doing a good
tight,
job.
and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young.
It's
people,
called a
I guess
cold.
it's their
Wow,
immune
what a
system.
thing.
Let me follow up with
The
you, President Trump.
coronavirus
You
is
said that the
cold.
schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Yep.
There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Vice
And that's
President.
what's happening. And he wants to close down, he'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but would they need resources to open? You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot
This is so
infect one
ridiculous.
another. You need to be in a position where you can take
What a great campaign promise.
know whether a person is
It's pathetic.
infected. You need to be able to trace.
Yes, he did say reproduction rate. Yes.
Resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it.
Exactly. None of you are going to die.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this, if you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a
Yep.
ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are
was
dying.
good.
You can't do that to people.
That was a
You
great
can't.
line.
Take a
That
look at
was.
New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take
That's
a look
true.
at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states.
He doesn't care about business.
United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike.
It is the blue states that are having the great problems because the Democratic governors and mayors are implementing these massive lockdowns and other
Exactly.
But they're all
Yep.
Americans. They're all
methods that aren't doing any good.
do is say, wear these masks, number one.
The plexiglass man. That's a good one.
Businesses need that has
Masks
money's
are
already been
useless.
passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer and nothing's happened.
President, New
Yeah.
York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
When you
about
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like prison. Now, it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect
I
our
wish we
elderly.
talk about false positives.
Especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems.
But then he's challenging the science,
In
Jim.
the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots.
They
If you're
were.
not listening to them,
They
who
are.
are you listening to?
Let me,
Fight this.
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next
That's
section.
debatable.
Is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious
This
virus
guy
that
is
spread in
such
the
a
air, and it
lying
was
buffoon.
much worse than the flu.
Come on, Giuseppe. He wants to protect all of us, man. Come on.
One of your
Yeah, I
colleagues
feel it.
Give us all a hug.
that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic.
Are you
He panicked.
kidding?
But guess what?
Democrats are
In the meantime, we find out in the New York
insane,
Times the other
whining
day that, in
cowards.
fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from
I'd love to see these two in a boxing match. That would be awesome.
It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to
one
give you
this is
30
one I
seconds to
haven't heard.
respond, and then we're
The
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I
Joe,
haven't.
you have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able
All
to
right,
get.
gentlemen, we're going
Don't
to move
tell me
on.
about Wall
Average
Street.
We're gonna-
contribution $43.
All right, we're going to move
Yeah,
on to
right,
the next
Jimmy.
section,
Yeah,
which is
sure.
national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence
What
this
a
election.
joke.
Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages.
We discussed this on the show today. This is just nonsense.
President, what would you
This
do
is
to put an
nonsense
end to this
propaganda
threat?
of
Yeah,
the,
and it's laughable.
Clear.
I know. Oh, you got a scary email. That's going to change the election.
No matter who it is that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved.
how about
They will pay a
Israel,
price
Zionist
if I'm
puppet?
elected.
Oy
They're
vey.
interfering with American sovereignty.
Verboten.
Going on right now. They're interfering with
right.
American.
And
They're our greatest ally,
To
Giuseppe.
my
Come on.
knowledge, I don't think the president said
Right.
anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy well, I won't, I shouldn't, well, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed
A
information.
Russian
Let's
pawn?
hear how Trump handles this.
And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this
They
president
know him. He's had his hands in their pockets forever.
actually
Yep.
paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan when he's
Oh,
engaged in
please.
activities that are
What?
trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth.
The Taliban would be insulted to be offered money to kill their enemy. That's just ridiculous.
In fact,
Right.
pay a price because they're affecting our
Everything
sovereignty.
that's coming out of his
President
mouth
Trump,
is
same
just a
question to you.
lie.
Let me ask the
Yeah.
question. You're going to have
Let's-
2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do?
No, there hasn't. There's been allegations thereof. Not
Let me respond to the first part as
Yeah.
Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails,
Good.
emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe
that's Tony Bobulinski.
Boom.
President Biden, you may respond. 30
straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life.
What a liar.
Ah,
Paid
what a
52
whopper.
That's going to blow him out of the water right there.
China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president. I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas.
Big Brucer.
What's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last.
It was actually 7,500,000 prepaid.
I prepaid because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell
told
when
you
could
that.
release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe.
This is good.
Your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know.
There
Maybe
you
you're
go.
not.
The
It's
big
good.
man.
Big man, I think.
Joe, the Godfather Biden.
Very, very subtle but effective.
Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have
about
to
all of this,
respond to
but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the audit is
deadline for
finished,
when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't have
lot
the
of
time.
people in there deep down in the IRS. They treat me horribly. We made a deal. It was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you
So-
both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance
Good.
to
Point
talk
of
about
order.
this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years
Everybody
you're going to
knows
release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do
Okay.
know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
Very
So
quickly, President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions.
Ryan J has it.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They
Yeah,
went
that's right,
through
Mitchell.
everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found
You know what's
absolutely no
shocking is
collusion
that
and nothing wrong.
Biden's strategy is
48
to act
million.
like
I
it's
guarantee
all
you,
a
if I spend
lie
1
when it's
million
all
on you,
proven
Joe,
true.
could
I mean,
find
how
plenty
can
wrong,
this
because
All right.
the
corrupt
kind of things that he's
moderator
done and
not
the kind of monies
not
that your
press
family
him
has
on that?
taken. I mean, your brother made money.
Taxing is ridiculous.
Dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And
Good,
they pay you
good.
some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal.
Here's what the deal is.
Part of Ukraine. We had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company.
He looks like the cat that swallowed the canary right now.
At every single solitary person when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me.
Unbelievable.
Do and did not do, because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about
Oh my God.
talking about.
That's good. That's good.
I
He's
have
bringing
not-
himself.
The only guy made money from China is this guy.
Oh my
The only
God.
one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Never
President
did
Trump,
deal with
let me,
China.
let me
By the
ask
way,
my question to you.
But
and
could
then
I just
you'll-
one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best
Oh.
reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment,
All right.
and he had no
I'm
energy.
going to let the vice president
That's
respond to that quickly, and
100%
then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No
quickly, Mr.
basis for
Vice
that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Ooh.
This is for
Oh
you.
my
What
God.
a liar.
Biden's
Well, he's
saying
got the
that
mainstream media covering his ass. He
Yeah,
knows it.
Right.
he's going to be creamed in the aftermath.
which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts and they're all listed and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking
Okay,
up money.
President.
Like a vacuum
Yeah.
cleaner.
Especially Hunter.
Biden looks 20 years older than Trump. Just look at the visual impression. You got one guy who looks young and vigorous, and the other old and deaf.
Fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus.
It's unbelievable
If
that
you were
Biden
president,
is
would
just
you make China
lying.
pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
He has no option. The truth kills him.
The international
You're right.
rules.
That's it.
Yeah.
He has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to get a
Just look at the physical impression.
15%. We would not do
Imagine
that.
these two in a boxing ring.
Number two, we're in a situation.
First round knockout.
China would have to play
Yeah.
by
Yeah,
the rules
I
internationally
agree.
as well. When I met with Xi,
One guy's a heavyweight, the other
president, he said, we're setting up air identification
feather.
in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others. And he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up.
Like who?
We're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it. And that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to
Yes.
respond to that.
Okay, very quickly, and then we're
Son
going to move
walked
on
out
to
with
North
$1.5 billion
Korea.
from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two. Number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy,
true.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New
Listen,
sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay,
And now we have a steel
okay.
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If
What a
you're making
tap
less than-
dance.
If you're a
Jeez.
middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making in the middle-class family.
What a condescending remark.
They're in trouble.
This was his
We should-
final argument. He's making it in the middle.
Thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That
to
is a
I want to
typical
talk about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me,
I
just
do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing. And then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. It's a
Right.
typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk about
Nice.
North
Typical
Korea.
politician.
Nice.
That's why I got elected. That was,
Let's talk
let's
about
get off the
Nice.
subject of China. Let's talk sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about
That's
North Korea
great.
now. President
That
Trump
was
met
well
with
done.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un
Roasted.
times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you
No.
forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war. And he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war.
Good.
And about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, millions of people would be
Okay.
dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have a
that's
war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice
Good.
President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration.
You
Why
nailed
do
it,
you think
Puka.
we would be able to rein
Well
in
stated,
this persistent
Puka.
threat right
Because
now?
I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration, when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better
Great
off.
diplomacy,
But
Joe.
the nation wants respect. He's showing them respect, which
Exactly.
Biden would never do.
Follow up with you,
Exactly.
Vice
What a
President Trump.
diplomat.
Wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get that the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American
Kristen,
families.
they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds.
Yep, Bruce.
They tried to meet with him. He
Bruce has
wouldn't
got it
do
right.
He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
got to
for a
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know,
that's okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. People don't understand. Having a good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have to
leaders
move
of other
on because
countries
we have a
is a
lot of
good thing.
we have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not a
That's
Your
bad
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe.
Oh,
The reason
statement.
he would not
that's
meet-
great.
That was a reach.
that we're going to talk about denuclearization.
So you think Kim's going to invade the United States?
Stronger sanctions.
He's just like Hitler, Jim.
That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
What?
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk
He
about
left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump. Okay, we do
They
need to
left
move on.
me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
We
And in
need to
fact,
move
if
on
you
so that
remember
we
the
can get
first
to all
2 or
of
3
other
months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my
It's
first 3
Riser,
months
that's
before
cool.
we sort of worked.
Riser. All right, man.
It was a
Right
very-
on.
They
Good comment,
left us
Riser.
a mess.
Puka.
And Obama would be, I think, the
That's
first to
funny.
say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to
Yeah,
American
Trump is killing it, man.
One of the issues that's most
I think
important to
Trump
them
is way more
healthcare,
effective
as you
being
both
more
know.
reserved.
Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme
His demeanor
Court
is really good tonight.
and healthcare
Yeah.
is at the center of
Very
her
presidential.
confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it.
Yep.
The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated it. It's gone.
Good.
Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision.
right,
run
Mitch.
it as well as you can to my people.
That's a
Great
good
people.
one, Mitch.
comment.
Run it as well as you can. I
Who-
could have
who
gone the
played
other
the
route.
Hitler
They
card
made everybody
first?
very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better healthcare, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love
That's a
their
good
health
point.
care. People that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care. And we're going to do even better.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option. It'll become Biden care.
Oh,
Option is an option that says that
double
if
down.
you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with
Obamacare prevented competition.
Thirdly,
Give me a break.
that I want to eliminate private insurance. The reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None.
He's slurring
Zero.
his words a
Can't
lot.
do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time.
He is
There is
slurring.
he's
Yeah.
not the plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American
Got a
people
shit-eating grin, doesn't he?
the COVID virus, the
Yeah.
economic spillover. 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
That's
I
exactly
have a follow-up
right.
for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to what President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting
Thanks,
social
Obama.
What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's
I
your
say
response
it's
to them?
ridiculous. It's like saying that, we're the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who, in fact, are concerned in the medical field.
Oh, wow. The labor unions endorsed Joe. That's surprising.
This
It's
is
probably a false claim. He makes these
Yeah.
sweeping generalizations that turn out to be false all the time.
Right.
And he said a whole range of others.
You're going to do if we get sick.
What's that exactly?
Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health
He
insurance.
couldn't name one law enforcement entity that supported him.
President
Excuse
Trump,
me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years. And it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine. And it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania.
Riser, good one.
We're going to have
Good one,
fracking.
Fraser.
And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
But somebody should ask the question.
you can ask.
He goes for a year. There will be
We
no
have a,
fracking.
we have,
there
we
will
do
be
have a
no
number of,
petroleum.
we have a number of topics
No,
we're
no,
going to
but
get
that's a
to.
big- that's a big question.
We're going to get to, we're going to get to. a
It's the
number
same
of
thing with
topics.
socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will in fact provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on healthcare. Not a
I think Joe's ready for a glass of warm milk now.
On
Look,
Capitol Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine and when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally
Wrong.
destroying, and destroying your Social Security.
That's a
And this
great
whole
point,
country will
Alex
come
Scott.
down. You know,
I was
Bernie
noticing
Sanders
that
tried it
myself.
in his
Biden's
state.
so
He tried it
rigid.
in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They want to make it work.
Okay,
It-
let's
Yeah.
let Vice President
Impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden,
a
your
very
response.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023. With no way to make up for it.
We've heard this forever.
It cut
Right.
Medicare. So no, I mean, the idea that
If the
Donald Trump
political
is
parasites
lecturing
would
me
stop
on Social
stealing from
Security
Social
and
Security,
Medicare,
it would be
Come on.
very well
He tried
funded
to get
and
rid of-
solvent.
He tried to hurt
President, and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing,
let's move
but
on.
this
I'm
is
going to
the
move
guy
on.
that
Let me,
when they
Mr.
announced
President, I have
last
to move
week,
on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going to
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
biggest
move on to the
analysts are
next
saying that.
question
Let me respond.
very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in
He's just an old boy from Scranton.
3 years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall
I
Street
think he grew up in a log cabin too.
more dollars, $700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol
401ks,
Hill. We're going to
Kristen,
move on. Gentlemen,
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna
People's
move on.
stock are through the roof.
All
And
right.
he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew
we're
it.
going to move on to
And
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight,
Trump knows how to troll, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
poverty,
man.
And more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington
course.
fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right,
By the
Mr.
way,
Vice President,
you
let-
know, the Republican leader in the
Giuseppe.
he will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for
Good.
American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at
Heroes Act.
when I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities
He
that
kicked Corn Pop's ass.
they have to balance the budget, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter
The
with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high
King of
crime
Cats, Steve.
Democrats, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking
Oh,
care
we
of
can't do it.
them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All
By
right,
the
I
way,
want
if
to.
I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States.
That's
He
such a
took that from
tired-
Barack
He
Obama.
doesn't want to admit that the Democrats have been a failure in their states and cities. He doesn't want to admit it. So he's going to talk about all America,
Because teachers,
claim the
He stole that
transparency
line from
of the
Barack
blue.
Obama, too.
the founders were smart.
Right.
They allowed the
This is some of the worst evidence against the Democrats. They are incompetent at governance.
Minimum wage,
Yes.
gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses
Yes.
and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum
I
wage.
do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out too. We should be
What?
bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything.
Go PPP.
How they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. It's
I
not-
love Joe's fake passion.
We're going to move on to
Excuse me, one thing
immigration,
very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every
That's
state
exactly
is different.
right,
It
Alex.
should be a state option.
You said very
Bunch of
have to help.
pork, always,
Very
always
important. We have to
stuff
help
it
our
full
small
of
businesses.
You-
How are you
everything that
helping our
helps
small businesses
Antifa,
when you're
helps
forcing
burn, loot,
wages?
murder,
What's going to
BLM.
happen, and what's been proven,
And to
that
bail out the
when you do
cities
that, these
in
small
Democrat
businesses
states.
fire many of their
Right.
employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an hour.
really
Is that
like,
still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really like,
administration?
in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I lived
Every-
in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would
Okay,
be
President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you.
No-
Quick
no one
response, Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1
We're
job.
2/3 through.
Be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street. because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening?
Would she ask that question?
Minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty.
And why is the conversation always about the minimum wage?
Minimum wage,
Right.
businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about
No salt.
immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your
Please.
policy.
So
but the
tired of
United
this.
States can't
This
look
is old.
parents of more
Doesn't
than 500
matter.
children. So how will
It's
these families ever be
it's
reunited?
like Disney.
Children are
It's
brought
immature.
here
It makes
by
you feel bad
coyotes
for
and lots of
Bambi.
bad
It's
people.
such
Yeah.
bullshit.
and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But let
reunite
me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
Let
families,
me just tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages.
There you
And
go.
then they had a
Like they
picture
care
Yeah.
about plebes, right?
newspaper.
That's exactly
There was a
right.
picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was
Yep.
it.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to reunite the
cages.
kids?
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me
Yep.
bring you into this
25.
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids.
South America doesn't allow illegal aliens just to overrun their countries.
Even at the border,
I can tell you
Nobody
that.
does.
disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
What a
Let me ask you-
clown.
Listen, they did it.
I love the fake passion.
Your
Yeah,
response
yeah,
to
They
that?
did it. We changed.
did not.
They built the
separate the
cages.
vet- They,
Who built the cages, Joe?
let's talk about
Who
what
built
we're
them?
talking about. Let's talk about what we're
Heather
talking about.
Tolson, yeah.
What happened?
Feel it.
Parents
Don't
were
trust the
ripped, their
facts.
kids were
Well
ripped from their
said, Heather.
arms.
Yeah, great point, Heath.
Now they can't
Awesome.
find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds
We
and
brought
then I need
Joe
to-
cares.
They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
that
of them
gotten
haven't been
such good-
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations.
actually
as
doing
well
a
as
decent
family
job
detentions
hitting
at the
them
border
both.
Before changing
She is actually. I agree,
voters to
Giuseppe.
immigration overhaul now.
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called
Heath
dreamers,
is right. Joe
those DACA
cares.
kids, they're going to
A
be
pathway to citizenship. What a great
in this country,
promise.
put on a path to citizenship. The idea that
Yeah.
they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that.
This is all pretty familiar stuff. I don't see
Oh,
any.
yeah.
And how does that benefit American citizens? It doesn't.
Right.
Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders.
Oh, for God's sake.
Oh, please.
We
Many of them are gang members and criminals too.
That's right.
He had
Reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing
Good.
except build cages to keep
Good.
children in.
Good.
Biden,
Wrong.
your response.
Nice.
Police, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were
Which they
released,
didn't show up for.
showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's
Oh
never
no.
America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case. that I seek asylum based on the following premise. Why?
Oh
are
my
you
God.
the law? They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
Sitting flower.
President Trump, your response,
so
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It
on.
just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws.
Ooh,
Chattanooga is a disaster.
boom.
A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to
Exactly
send
right.
ICE out.
That's exactly
Go around
right,
to find
Alex
them.
Scott.
We would say,
it's
come
back
so
in
true.
2 years,
Awesome.
3 years, we're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case.
Perry Mason.
When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Of course
They
not.
come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President Trump,
very,
let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden.
Ooh.
Know the law. What he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
He's got Joe up against the ropes.
They
Section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it
Let's
anymore.
move on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing
Joe's getting wobbly.
being lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and Brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has her graduate degree from the University of
He
Pennsylvania.
was smoking tobacco out of that.
You know,
You don't hit this.
one
You
of the
ain't
reasons
black.
why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a Black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street, making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person.
You know, if
making
you didn't
$300,000
do
child of a $300,000
90% of the
a year
violent
person, or
crimes, the
someone who's
murders, the
on
rapes, the
food
assaults,
stamps.
you might
The fact
not
of the
have these
matter is,
problems.
There is institutional racism in
It-
America.
but it's
And
it's
we
it's
have always
it's the
said
fault of the
we've never
police.
lived
It's
up
the
to it.
fault
We hold
of the
these truths to be
people who
self-evident.
don't
All
want
men
to
and
get
women are created
shot.
equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come
Yeah,
along
that's
and
right,
say,
EH.
"To that. We're not going to do that anymore."
It's
We
our
have to
strength.
provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to
China's really a diverse country, isn't it?
to
Yep.
opportunity.
They get all those benefits by having better economy, better wages, which Trump was bringing them.
As to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the Black community.
Yep.
And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He
Oh,
said it's
every
super
time he says
predators,
not true.
and they kept never.
It's on the record.
1994,
Everything
the
that's
crime
true,
bill, the
Biden's
super
one
predators.
answer is not
Nobody
true.
has done more for the Black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the Black and Hispanic communities, and then historically Black colleges and universities. After 3 years coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came
I
into
agree.
the office and they said,
agree
I said, what
too.
are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did 10-year long-term funding. And I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved historically Black colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your
Did
response.
they black out,
My response to that is
bleep out black? He said, I say black colleges and universities, which he did.
the fact of the matter is, in
That was
2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is the guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent Black kids, he continued to push for making sure
Let's talk about Antifa and Black Lives Matter.
one of them were guilty of what the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences, over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that in fact initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set
He
up
helped push the 3 strikes
jail because they have
law.
a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did
Ouch.
a good job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would
Uh,
have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right,
That's
Vice President Biden,
awesome.
your response.
That's
to that?
great line.
It's for both of you.
Well, I tell you what,
Total destruction, man.
to me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for
I don't
honor
think
and
I
Boy,
take
he's
that
setting
back.
himself up.
I'm anxious to have this
He just teed up the ball.
take
Yeah,
place.
right.
I
Exactly.
am, character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow.
Excuse me.
Please respond. And we're
This
going to have
stuff
follow-up
is true
questions.
about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq. If this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't
Great
give me
one,
the
Alex.
stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe,
Come on, man.
you're a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
Take a look
President
at the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue
Excuse
of
me,
race. We're
take a look
talking
at
about
the
the issue.
laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race.
Those were good comments.
Respond to that.
Please.
Because look,
Very
Yeah.
clear.
Total destruction, man. That was awesome.
intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties. say
Yeah,
what
they're
he's saying is a
trustworthy.
bunch of
Right. They're responsible for the content of Hunter Biden's laptop.
Exactly.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's
Great.
exactly what
This is
told.
where he's going. The
All right.
laptop is Russia,
Yeah.
Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the
Awesome,
issue of
Trump.
race.
You
Nice.
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President?
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President,
Excellent.
you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that Black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person.
Yeah, Bruce.
What do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't
and by
know. I
the-
mean, I
the
don't know
videos?
what to say. I got
Biden's
criminal
really getting
justice
tense. I
reform
think he
done,
is
and prison
desperate.
reform and opportunity zones.
Biden's wobbly and he's on the ropes.
Universities.
He is.
I don't know what to say.
The
They can say
laptop thing
anything.
is so
I
good.
mean,
He's got to go back to it again.
anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark, but I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me
Abraham.
ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire, every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator.
He's slurring again.
Mexican rapist. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything.
He's winning support among Muslims, remember?
About the poor
Yeah.
board.
Yeah,
Last time we
exactly.
were on stage here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
No,
follow-up. question.
Good.
You reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham
No,
Lincoln.
where did that? No.
You
I
said
said not since Abraham Lincoln
Exactly.
has anybody done what I've done.
Joe looks confused. Look at him.
I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln
Good for
has
you,
anybody
Trump.
done what I've done for the Black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
oh God.
tens of thousands of Black men mostly in jail.
All right, let me,
And you know
let me
what?
ask-
Good.
Remember
Vice
That's
President
true.
Biden a
what's
question.
happening with the voting right now?
Let me ask
They
Vice
remember
President
that you
Biden
treated them
about
very, very badly.
the-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden,
Oh.
let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime
Okay.
bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young Black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles whose families
Only about 10 minutes left.
them suffering the
Yeah.
consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the
I hope
things
Trump brings up the crack pipe.
passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a
Drugs.
I've been trying to change the sense and particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone
Working closely with Hunter on that one.
a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not
Giuseppe, we
go
got
to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. Treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done because I think maybe the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to the drug, but they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay,
why
so-
didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a lot of it
Nice.
done.
Good.
Ouch.
They got
Nice.
38,000 prisoners left from
You got
out-
nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
Quick
just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens of
Trump is-
thousands of mostly.
Look at the look on Joe's face. It's priceless.
Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why,
Because-
Joe? Because you're all
Where
talk
am I?
and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and
Nice.
then we're going to move on to the
That's
next section.
really
The
good.
Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well, you
Okay.
got to talk them into it, Joe.
All
Sometimes
right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next
Nice.
section,
Like I
which
did
is
with criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
Look at the look on Joe's
we have
face, man.
time, so we got to get on
Hilarious.
climate change, please. You both have very
Looking
different
at his watch.
climate change.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of George H.W. Bush.
Regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different
No
programs.
kidding.
I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look
Filthy.
at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, the global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit the limit of emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's what we
This
have.
guy's slurring, man.
I was able to
He
get both
is.
He really is.
organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does,
comes
it will
across
create
as this
millions of
challenged
new, good
old
paying jobs.
guy.
We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes.
Science!
Yeah, it's science.
Much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. That his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his
nothing to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about climate.
AOC +3.
But he knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look,
AOC +3.
their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good
All right.
politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to. So
country.
let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan was, this
You
is.
can't power cities with
Made-
windmills and solar panels. Come on,
Green
guys.
New Deal, globalist
Because they
bullshit.
know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the electric, solar energy and wind. He thinks wind
What?
causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing
What?
wages, 45, 50.
I want a fact check on that one, someone.
We can grow and
Yeah,
we can be
right.
cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-ups.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent.
It does.
And they happen
He's
to make
right.
the windmills. in
It's a
both-
bird holocaust, man.
And the fumes coming up,
Here's a
if you're a
great one.
believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a
Solar.
scientist said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So
False.
it's all a pipe dream.
And
But
the
you
sun
know,
doesn't shine at night.
you have the greatest economy in the world, but if you want to
Good
kill the
point,
economy,
Alex
get
Scott.
rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me
now we have to ask him about
allow
fracking.
Vice
Oops.
President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on
I-
tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact
I've
that
already seen it.
flat,
You've already played it.
Would you
Flat-
rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over
What?
time is make sure that we can capture the emissions.
Zero emissions by
Right.
2025?
Zero carbon emissions. It's
We can
insane.
do that, and we
Not going to happen.
It's
Money.
just the
Insane.
Green
It's a
New
transition
Deal
to that.
bullshit
I have
from the
one more question in this
globalists.
time, then
Yes.
we have-
He was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I
Good.
am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania. Then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
fracking on federal land. I said no fracking
You
and
said
or
fracking.
oil
You
on
didn't say
federal
Let
land.
me ask this
I
final
did.
question in this section.
On federal land, what difference does that make?
Section.
Right.
President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the two of them. to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives.
The two of them.
Numbers or the
put it nicely.
statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it
That's
again a
exactly
number of
right,
months ago when
Dreiser.
oil was crashing
exactly
because
right.
of the pandemic. We
Okay.
saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more
Sure
oil
you did.
in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turning the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them. It matters how.
I want to fact check on this.
What do
This
you
story.
do? You impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
You know,
Okay. I
so
have one
few
final
people
question.
live
Close
near
down the oil
those.
industry?
falls-
Would you close
it
down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
What?
right.
He's getting rid of the oil industry.
I would
That's
stop.
what he just admitted, conceded.
Right.
Industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal, but you
That's a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give it
right.
to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you
Yep.
remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I
Ohio.
have to get to the final question. Vice President.
Takes everything out of context, but the point is, look,
It's out of context, man.
towards a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China to
both
do
of
it?
you. No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We have
going
to
to get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We have to
Exactly.
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost
is
you $1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
1.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best Black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success, but I'm cutting taxes and he wants to raise everybody's taxes and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden,
Good.
same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move
All
forward.
you
because we
spew
have
is fear.
enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country: decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election day is November 3rd.
Joe's running for Senate.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
You can flip to us, Giuseppe. She looks better wearing a mask than anyone else I've seen lately, I'll tell you that. I believe that Kristen Welker did a very commendable job of hosting this debate, that she was as even-handed as she could be, given what I'm certain are her strong biases in favor of the Democratic Party. I believe this was a very valuable exercise for very general reasons. Visually, you had one man, larger, physically more robust, healthy, vigorous. You had another guy who looked like he was struggling to get the words out, that he's not here for many more days, and that, he would not be capable of handling the position. Second of all, the one guy, the bigger guy, gave you the impression that he knew vastly more about every subject he addressed than he actually was able to say in the amount of time he had to say it. You got the impression the other guy was doing his best to squeeze out of a lemon all the juice he could extract, and really would have been hard-pressed to add another sentence or two to what he got out there. So I believe on the optics and on the content and the style and manner, one of these guys appeared to me to be clearly qualified and competent for the job. The other, not so much. And I would go so far as to surmise that if you had a response, as we had from the, say, vice presidential debate, as I recall, in Telemundo, perhaps it was even to the first, it's going to be about 2-1, I think, Trump over Biden, possibly even higher. Your thoughts, you guys, Giuseppe.
Jim, I thought that Trump was masterful in that he dialed it back, and he wasn't the angry Trump from the moment. He was really much more presidential, much more reserved. And when he turned it on, it was very effective. And he never went, full rage monster. He just, pressed his point. And I thought, as we did in the first debate, compare it to a boxing match, I don't think that Biden landed one blow of damage, and some of Trump's zingers were like standing 8 counts. I remember 3 different times where we said, wow, that's great. What a great point. What a great point. There was not one time where we could say, oh, Biden made a great point. He was so stale. And as one of our fellow viewers, Alex Scott, mentioned, that he's so rigid and he's so tight, and so often he had to go like, and he was losing his track. He seemed like an old man over his head, and where Trump was just really, really looked good. And the fact that Biden's main reply, I mean, what else could he do, as you said during the debate, Jim, was just say that's not true, that's not true, when it's all true. It's all provable with his insane, crack-addicted, pedophile son, and go on and on. The Bolshevik Democrats that still trust in Biden are just out of their minds at this point.
Scorpio, your thoughts?
I would say that was complete and utter destruction. Joe Biden was left on the canvas, knocked out, man. I didn't think Trump did that great. In the first debate, he came across as angry. His demeanor in this debate was really very, very different. And like Giuseppe said, I don't think Joe had a single good punch against Trump. I think it was just a complete domination. And most importantly, this is the debate people are going to remember. The other debate's going to go down the memory hole.
I believe that Joe Biden made 3 blunders that are very, very costly politically. Number one, he said he was going to get rid of oil. And I'm so glad that Trump underscored it by going back, not letting Kristen push him on to the next question, because it was so significant. And Trump said, you hear that, Texas? You hear that, Pennsylvania?
Ohio.
You hear that, Ohio? That is going to be devastating. Number 2, he said we're going to get to 0 admissions by 2035. Everything I've read, this zero carbon emissions is utter insanity. Insanity. It's not possible, cannot be achieved. The human devastation, the economy, it would be overwhelming. That's the second. The third, I think, is going to be very, very serious for this guy. He implied he was morally superior to Donald Trump. He implied he was the moral guy. He implied this is a contest of character, contrasting Trump's character with his. Well, I hate to remind him, but his character is being obliterated now, and that's made this, his character, the crucial issue between now and the 3rd of November, and he's not going to like the outcome. The contents of the laptop, the clarity of Rudy Giuliani's exploration, the fact we got this guy, Tony Bobulinski, who was one of their personal business associates, who's a witness to testify that Joe Biden was, in fact, involved in the business dealings with his son. This is going to slit his throat politically. Believe me, this is disastrous for Biden.
Well, and he made a mistake, too. One time he said carbon net zero at 2025, and the second time he said 2035.
Yeah.
Right. And this carbon neutral thing, it's all about this carbon trading scheme on Wall Street. And what it's going to really mean is that big companies and wealthy people can buy carbon credits, whereas your average person won't be able to. And it's going to cost you $300-400 to heat your house, if we're even able to.
Look, when the American public see the photograph, which really hasn't been widely shared, that Giuseppe was showing several times of Hunter Biden asleep in bed with a crack pipe coming out of his mouth. When they understand that on the computer that the FBI has had in its possession for 10 months, contains 40,000 emails that show these corrupt actions, not only with Iraq, but with Russia, with China, and with Ukraine. That's going to be devastating. When they learn that Hunter was corresponding with his dad about being naked with a 14-year-old girl because his father had a prurient interest in it. When he learned that there are videos on there of Hunter Biden torturing and raping young Chinese girls, what's that going to say about Joe Biden's character, his role as a father, and his moral standing? It's going totally in the toilet. You can flush it because he's done.
Right. And what's insane is that the mainstream globalist corporate media is helping to somehow try and prevent that from coming out. Like you mentioned in the pre-debate discussion, Leslie Stahl, who is a traitor and a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, they're all trying. NPR wouldn't cover it today. I mean, it's like they're all desperately trying to somehow save the beloved Bolshevik 2.0 because they're all
just elaborate. Leslie Stahl said they couldn't discuss it. They weren't going to report it because it wasn't verified. Well, what you do in that situation is you report it and you say, we haven't verified it, but the report's there. It's coming from Rudy Giuliani. It's coming from other sources that are authenticating it. And after all, if they report it coming from these sources and then it turns out to be false, unverifiable, it's going to redound negatively against them. So the press is not running any risks in reporting honestly what they are learning. Now we have a second laptop in Ukraine that a Ukrainian lawmaker has said is initiating an investigation of Joe and Hunter Biden's business dealings with Ukraine. Now you have an eyewitness, a man who was personally involved. This guy, Tony Rubelinski, whom, as I said, was a lieutenant in the Navy. That's a rank equivalent to being a captain in the Marine Corps, as was I. This guy's totally credible, and he's contradicting everything Joe Biden's been saying. That is going to destroy Joe Biden once and forever.
Well, and part of the emails have already been confirmed by one of Hunter Biden's lawyers. Tucker even had that on his show the other day. So,
well, what the lawyer confirmed was that the laptops actually belonged to Hunter Biden, because the lawyer was seeking to have their return, and in the process, he confirmed that they actually were the property of Hunter Biden. Leslie Stahl and the other corrupt media could be reporting this. They simply introduce the appropriate qualifications and just look at the position they're in. If they have reported and said it's unconfirmed, well, when they get the confirmation and it's contradictory to what they've been told by Rudy Giuliani, identified as the president's personal attorney, they have a field day going after Rudy and Trump because he's got such a bad guy as his legal advisor. So if they had an obligation to the American public, they have not fulfilled, and it's going to make this issue the dominant issue between now and November 3rd. And Joe Biden put his head right in the noose when he said this is a contest of character between this man's character and mine. He defined the issue that is going to defeat him outright. I mean, massively. Trump was already heading for a victory, but this is going to cinch it. And the reason why I think the Democrats are going to be at a loss, they're going to have no retort to a landslide victory by Trump, because they will know their candidate was mentally and morally and physically defective. They put their money on the wrong horse. And it's shocking that a major political party would come up with such a mediocrity to be their candidate for the presidency, and then a similarly unqualified individual to be vice president, the most extreme member of the United States Senate. It is stunning.
You know, Jim, the only problem with what you're laying out is that unless you get to see Hunter Biden beating up and raping that Chinese girl, the Trump derangement syndrome is going to keep people over on the Democratic side. That just hearing about it, something has to break for real to break that delusion.
Giuseppe, you got a third of the population who are going to hang on to it as though their life depended upon it. They are going to be immune to evidence. They already are. Right. They have shown that they're incapable of accepting any of the massive evidence that suggests Trump has done many good things for this country. They can admit none of them. How many times in our show have we gone through, say, 6, 8, or 10 lists of good things Trump has done for this country? Actually, the list is as long as your arm. Or 7 or 8 indicators, major indicators, that Trump is going to win a massive electoral landslide here. But they won't accept it. They deny it. They're in a state of denial. So you got to set aside 1/3, Giuseppe, that are unreachable.
Right.
You have on the other side the Republicans who've been open-minded about Trump, except for a few classic cases like Mitt Romney, who continues to disgrace himself by making a big point of observing that he did not vote for Trump, who's a disgrace and is never going to have a future with the Republican Party. And most importantly, the great middle of independence. You got blacks, you got Latinos, and you got a lot of independent thinkers who are all moving in the direction of Donald Trump. Believe me, that's the way it's playing out here and now.
Well, and
I agree.
H just made a great comment in the chat that how was the Russian collusion ever verified, yet they reported on it endlessly for 3 years?
Yeah, the hypocrisy. That's exactly right. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
We had 3 years of this total bullshit. that was never verified by anyone. It couldn't be because it didn't have a basis. And listen, let me tell you something. I was astonished before coming up here. My wife is addicted to MSNBC, and they had a show where they had expert commentators about the Biden case, and they were assuring the public that this was Russian disinformation. And get this, one of them was a fellow by the name of Peter Strzok, who with his girlfriend, Lisa Hay, was deeply involved in the whole Russia hoax and the effort to sabotage the democratic system by undermining the legitimacy of the Trump campaign. MSNBC was featuring him. Nicole Wallace was referring to him as very friendly, very chummy with people who are absolutely anti-democratic, un-American, and want to sabotage the Constitution and our electoral system. It was stunning to me. I said to my wife, I said, "You know who that guy is?" I mean, it was Peter Strzok, for God's sake.
Exactly. We're being joined by a popular podcast host over in the UK, Bryzer. He watched us and he'd like to join in. So, Bryzer, welcome.
Excuse me, it's not the UK, it's Ireland. We've fought the Ireland forces of Britain for 800 years. We tried to get it out. Right?
Hey, Bryzer, man. How are you, man?
Hi, Dave. How are you keeping? Jim Fetzer, great to talk to you, man. It's great to talk to you. How are you keeping?
Very glad to have you here, Bryzer.
Yeah. Listen, we're going through shit here over here, man. The whole world's gone to hell.
Give us your assessment first of the debate tonight, and where you would agree.
Well, okay, straight up. Okay, I watched it, and Trump just he did. Yeah, he owned him completely. Biden was weak. Trump had all the points all together. He absolutely destroyed Biden. It was absolutely wonderful to watch that.
Well, there were many more points Trump could have made about the coronavirus, for example, where we've made so many reports about it, in particular that like 90% of the positive results are false positives, that the test is rigged, that having the number they're counting cases are not individuals who are even sick for the vast majority, but have RNA fragments from having once had a cold or the flu, that we don't hold presidents responsible for deaths that follow from the seasonal flu, much less malaria, much less a host of others that are taking vastly more lives every single day than the coronavirus, and that the whole thing was a political pandemic. He was restrained on that. I felt that was a topic where Biden had the most leverage in terms of defending his position and attacking Trump. But even at that, I felt it was even. And on the other issues, I felt Trump had a decided edge. And in some cases, which I've already enumerated, that Biden gave away the store.
Yeah. You know what kind of annoyed me was, the whole thing before the whole thing started, everyone was wearing masks. We had to wear masks. And, anybody with half a brain would know this is all a big scam. So why are they doing this? See, I'm wondering, is it all theater? I don't know.
Well, I think that this is part of the globalist program. They're introducing this financial reset program where they're going to forgive all your debts, your bankruptcies, your credit card debts, your student loans, and all that. But you have to surrender all of your personal property and assets. And if you're not willing to do it, they're going to treat you as a threat to public health or as an enemy of the state. They're doing this in Canada already. They're building their version of FEMA camps, but now we can see the intention of creating them here. They want to take those of us who are resistant to the globalist program and put us away. And I'm talking about put us away in a way that we're not ever going to provide a problem for them. Now in Canada, the Canadians confiscated their weapons over a shooting very like Sandy Hook. And the Canadians are unable to respond. I do not believe they can get away with that here. we have around 130 million Americans who not only aren't voting for Joe Biden, but who aren't going to go along with this global financial reset program. So I think that's why America has always been the tough nut to crack.
Bryzer, a few weeks back, you had the great Harry Vox on your show. It was an excellent show. And that was the first 15 minutes of that debate were chilling and disturbing to me when Trump is playing along with this COVID-19 corona hoax and talking about bringing in the army to give the shots. I thought that was insane that he is going along with this, but I understand the forces and the power behind all this. So if he took them on now, but I hope when he's reelected, he backs off of some of that.
I think after he's reelected, Giuseppe, he's going to trash Fauci, get rid of Birx. He's going to jettison. He's going to expose Bill Gates. I hope all these people are indicted. They deserve it. Anthony Fauci has been responsible for more damage and destruction to the United States than all of our enemies historically combined, including Joe Stalin, Adolf Hitler, Emperor Hirohito. This guy, Anthony Fauci, Tony the Rat, who works for the medical mafia Don Bill Gates, are despicable tyrants and traitors to the United States and its great people.
Well, and Trump did say several times that this is going to go away. So we'll just have to hope that that's what he intends to stick with as it goes on.
The only issue I have is, guys, over here in Europe, everybody hates Trump. Okay, everybody over here in Europe hates Trump. Well, the media do, not everybody. And I'm just trying to think. Okay, if Trump wins, what happens? Okay. And if he even calls out Fauci and all the rest of it, you're going to have the media bandwagon calling him out. Oh, he's now become a dictator, Emperor Trump or some fucking thing. There's something going to come out of this. And it's not going to be nice. I think the next few months, guys, are going to be
no. I think this Hunter laptop thing, this scandal is so immense. I think it's going to nullify, it's going to suffocate any campaign the Democrats would make to claim that they really deserve to win the election. I think this has made a decisive difference in relation to the response post-election. I really believe we have turned the corner on that issue, which relieves me greatly because I was in anticipation of a civil war, a real civil war. And I'll add this. If Trump betrays the American people and goes for some kind of mass inoculation, he's going to have to deal with us. We have been supporting him because we have believed in him. But if he were to betray the American people, we would be damned if we would stand for him. We stand for the Constitution and for America. And we support him because he has been strong for the Constitution and America. But if he turns out to deceive us and sell us out, to hell with him. Meanwhile, until that day comes, we are his staunch advocates and supporters.
All right. What about the Israel connection then, Jim? That's my problem with Trump. The Jewish connection.
Yeah, he's been way too generous with Israel, but I'm telling you right now, Bryzer, the media is controlled by the Israelis. I have a panel of 100 executives from CNN. Get rid of that, please. I have a panel of 100 executives from CNN, all of whom are dual U.S. Israeli citizens. I have a panel of 100 executives from NBC, all of whom are dual U.S. Israeli citizens. I have another panel of 100 executives from the New York Times, all of whom are dual U.S. Israelis. This is a Rothschild's World Bank International Monetary Fund effort to take control of the property of the entire world. And the Israelis, the Zionists, are very much involved in this. Go back and look at what Bibi Netanyahu has said about America as the golden calf, and that we're going to suck it dry until we leave it as nothing but a huge welfare state that we control, because that's what we do with nations we hate. They are not supporting Trump because he's not sufficiently anti-Iranian. If he were to nuke Iran tomorrow, they'd all vote for Trump, but they believe Joe Biden is a better bet in getting everything they want. This is the bottom line for them.
That's a great point.
Well,
That's a good point.
yeah. But the thing is, why did Trump hand the key to the White House to fucking Netanyahu, the Jew fucker? You know, he's a nasty piece of work.
Just
I think he already had the key.
Yeah, look. He's saving the best. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Don't.
Oh yeah, I know that, Jim. I know
Do
that.
not underestimate this man. This may be the most brilliant political figure ever astride the American scene. I am in awe.
You know, Jim, the other thing I thought was brilliant of Trump is he really delineated Biden, you're a politician. I ran against politicians. I would have never run if you had done your job. I thought that was brilliant to point out that he's getting sabotaged left and right by politicians.
And it was 100% true.
Right.
And
You're the reason I ran.
He has rocked the boat. He has rocked the boat. And believe me, he will drain the swamp. And he has taken initiatives, but after his reelection, it's going to go on with great force and vigor, I guarantee. This is my assessment of the man. Should I be proven wrong, I will adjust my belief and confidence and adopt the tactics we need to do if we are confronted with a new tyrant, but I do not believe that will be the case.
You're the reason I ran was a great line. One of the best lines of the whole night.
Hey, have you guys seen the video that some of the other hosts posted? I can play it here in a minute if you want. But today with Kamala Harris's Zionist 12th husband running out in an office setting to a bunch of fawning acolytes saying, I'm going to be married to the president of the United States. Have you seen that video?
No.
I can, here, I'll bring it up. Hold on.
That's embarrassing. This might be the way to tie it off tonight. We know the points you're making. Yes. He's had to deal with, no president has had to cope with so many adversaries of so many different types, all trying to do him in. So you've got an excellent point. And yes, I think the explanation why, we got to be more sophisticated. Jews don't vote in a block any more than blacks vote in a block or Latinos vote in a block. But there seem to be a lot of Jews who feel he's insufficiently with the Zionist program in relation to Iran. Notice, this man has got us in no wars. He actually was deserving of a Nobel nomination, whereas his predecessor was completely undeserving of the one he unfortunately, mistakenly, by utter blunder received. Show us the video, Giuseppe.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. I need another minute or so to find it. It wasn't.
Scorpio.
Well, just to tell you, Jim, over here, right, that we've gone into lockdown till 1st of December.
That's terrible.
And we have a rogue government because they're going against even the World Health Organization guidelines, because the top man there said that lockdowns don't work. There was an interview he did with Andrew Neil of the Spectator magazine. It's all on there. And so we have a rogue government here. They don't give a shit. They want to destroy businesses, and they want to increase suicides and whatever. And now I am seeing a bit of pushback, even just
the whole idea is to get everyone on a digital currency and then to chip us, so that our only resource to financial access is one they can control, imposing a social merit system like China. And if we don't behave as expected, they'll just cut us off. We won't even have food, which is a very effective technique Henry Kissinger observed a long time ago. If you want to control a government, control its finances. If you want to control a people, control their food.
Well, and look at the fact that Facebook has, a half a dozen or so of actual, real, honest-to-goodness Chinese communists on their censorship board.
Oh, Scorpio, I learned that just as I was coming on the air. We had Newt Gingrich reporting that Google has a dozen experts from China in censorship and suppression who are adjusting their algorithms to be more like China. How disgusting can you get? That's about as traitorous and un-American.
Yeah.
These giants are going to be broken up. I guarantee 100%. Go for it.
Okay, ready for the video?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Kamala Harris's Jewish husband coming out.
Yeah.
Israel. Israel.
Yay.
And I'm married to the next president of the United States.
He's talking about Kamala's the next president of the United States.
Exactly.
Hilarious.
That's just stunning.
Or is
And
it
god
Nancy?
awful.
Yeah.
Bryson,
Well,
thank you for joining us. I'm really
display.
glad you guys were excellent. I think we should call it a night unless you want to add a few final
No, I just say, Jim, that what we have over here, Ireland's been taken over by American, and it's mainly Jewish corporations that come over here. Goldman Sachs, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, the whole fucking lot. They're all over here. And okay, they're creating a lot of jobs, and they're not paying any taxes, okay? And they're getting away with absolute murder. Big pharma as well. All the big pharma companies are here too.
Right.
And the politicians here are all underpaid. There's big fat brown envelopes going into their pockets, and they are going along with this. And not only that, we're members of the EU, which is another corrupt, absolute disgrace of an organization. I mean, I'm all for forming, friendships with European brothers and sisters, but this is a kind of a complete corporate takeover. That's what it is. And
Yes.
Ireland's been kind of just a place where they've just done it, because we were a post-colonial society, and they came in, we were an easy touch, and they got us. Sadly, they got us, but there are people here who are standing up, me included, and I'm no way. We are a sovereign country. We had ancient Brehon laws. We had a golden age here, long time ago, until the Crown came in here. Even the Catholic Church came in here, and they destroyed all of that. And now we're in part of the EU, and it's gone to shit, man. Our country, a beautiful country, it's gone to shit.
Giuseppe, we need to have him on our shows. We need to bring him in as a guest on our shows.
Well, Bryzer, I know we're have some time constraints, but I'm glad we're connected now on Skype, and I'll get with you as far as pulling you in on some of the Revolution Radio shows. We'd really like you to join us.
We need more time. We need more time.
Sounds good,
the right opportunity to go in depth into these issues with you, because you got an important message to share with us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you as well, there's great people over here who are fighting back. Okay, and a lot of them are Trump supporters. They're kind of looking maybe to America, because a lot of Irish people went to America and made their lives there and stuff, and people live there and stuff. But there's a very strong connection between Ireland and America. So
yes. Well, it's a great nation, Ireland, and you're obviously among those who are putting up the good fight. And we want to do what we can to aid and abet you, my friend. So I'm very glad you could join us this evening. And we will have you back on our shows on future occasions in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Excellent.
Good to hear from you, Bryzer, man. Right on.
Yeah, fantastic. Glad you joined in.
Yeah, great guys.
Giuseppe, Scorpio, any final words?
My final word would be that this is a total victory for Trump in this debate. I was actually very surprised at how devastating the whole thing was, actually.
Giuseppe?
I was stunned at how feeble and tense and nervous Biden came off at, stuttered. He kind of wheezed a little bit. I don't know if you noticed his wheezing, and not a healthy guy. And I, for one, do not want a President Kamala Harris. That would be a dystopian nightmare that I do not want to live through.
I believe anyone watching this debate would realize there is only one candidate on the stage who is capable of serving as president of the United States, and it's the same guy who holds that office now. We want to thank you all for watching. This was absolutely wonderful with Giuseppe Vafanculo from the District of Criminals, with David Scorpio from the exotic land of Ecuador, and me, Jim Fetzer from Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
And Bryzer from Ireland.
Yeah. And Brazier from
Rise from
Ireland.
Ireland. Yeah, we're coming from the Emerald Isle. We're calling
We
it.
love it.
We're
We
fighting
love
back.
it. We love it. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with all the news you need to know. Hope to see you then.